Hey guys, welcome to In Plain Sight. It's John Esser here. I am an autistic, weird person by nature, so I like to look for the patterns in things that might not be noticeable to the naked eye. And in this case, as you can tell by the title, it is indeed the finals. I do believe it's no more and nor no less staged than WWE. Just watching some of these fairy tale stories come true. And this year was very interesting. I looked into the numerology of it, which in the past, I kind of discredited. But to be quite honest, it's quite revealing. So this is hopefully going to really fascinate you guys, because I think you're going to be astounded by the sheer amount of coincidences that have happened regarding these finals. I'm going to start with the very obvious one, and that's the 13th year. The 13th year is in the NBA, it is a rite of passage. It's a very sacred number. If you notice, that's why LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kareem, Tim Duncan, I believe, and Dirk all won in their 13th year. That's why going into this year, it was obvious to me and a lot of people Curry was going to win. It's his rite of passage. It's his send-off. It's his last year. After this, he's done. Okay, he's got his top 10 status. He's out. Now we're moving on to Giannis or whoever, Luka. But my point is, the 13 is important because it came up a significant amount of times. So there's the very obvious references to the 13, and I have them right here. I'm just gonna look at my notes. So the most obvious one to me is the fact that they won by 13 points. It's just right out there in the open. They won by 13 points, and they also won with a score of 103. So there's two 13s just right off the bat. Now in the past, 6 years ago, Curry and then the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. Backwards, that's 1-3. What happens 6 years later to the date? They get their redemption. They get their 3 straight wins. And now Curry is 1 and 3 in the MVP voting, because he won 1. He didn't win 3. So as you can see, the 13 comes up over and over and over again. And there's other numbers that do come up, and I'm going to move on to them. But I wanted to make sure that I just covered just the significance of that number and then why it's so important. And I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Doesn't look like I did regarding 13. So the other number is 4. And this one I got on early because at the beginning of the year, Steve Kerr got his 400th win, and they were making the biggest deal ever about it. They were saying, he got his 400th win, and it's so great because he's only been the coach of the Warriors and all these different things. And I thought, that's odd. Sure enough, the 400th win was against Boston. So you might just think, okay, that's nothing, 400. Well, now in the playoffs, what happens? They beat them. Of course, they win 4 games. They had to beat 4 teams to get there. Denver, Memphis, Dallas, and then they're the 4th team. And on top of all of that, if you look at the numbers, Curry played exactly 40 minutes. And that moves me on to my next point, which is another number. And again, so Kerr got his 4th ring after beating 4 teams and getting his 400th win against Boston. And Boston were 4-point favorites tonight, by the way, last night. So all the 4s you can see kind of lining up. And another interesting stat is 48. Why is 48 important? Well, I saw that number come up several times. The most obvious is they're talking about it's the 75th year anniversary of the NBA. Well, guess when the first NBA championship was? It was in 1948. Guess who won it? It was the Philadelphia Warriors. Warriors won that championship. And what happened? They won it 4-2. So it's a very interesting dynamic. And then if you go further into it, you'll see that who won the MVP of the All-Star game for the 75th year anniversary? Steph Curry. Who won the final MVP? Steph Curry. 75-year anniversary. The reason that's important is, guess what the Warriors are now in the finals? 7-5. So you got 7-5 on the 75th year anniversary. You had the 3-1 lead blown, right? And in his 13th year, he redeems it by winning 3 games. And you just see the numbers all add up pretty perfectly. And the other interesting thing about 48 is, what was Steph Curry's stat line last night? It was 34, 7, and 7. So he had a stat line of 48. And furthermore, Dray, Klay, and AW, the other big 3 scorers, combined for a total of 48. So these numbers just keep coming up over and over and over, and it's not a coincidence. And I know I was talking about 42 briefly. If I also want 40, I want to get to 42, because 42 is another interesting one. 42 is interesting because Boston shot 42% today. Another thing interesting about 42 is that was Steph Curry's stat line throughout the series. He averaged 31, 6, and 5. So he averaged 42 throughout the series, and in the series, what did they do? They won 4-2. So as you can see, all these numbers, they come back in circles, and I find it extremely interesting. And with 48 again, I'm seeing it on the news already. They like to rub it in our faces. So yeah, they got the 1948 first win ever. Then Curry's stat line adds up to 48. The other big 3, their numbers add up to 48. And now the title is Warriors win their 4th title in 8 years. So again, it's very interesting to me, these numbers that just keep coming up repetitively. And I haven't even dropped the biggest 2 bombshells. And here they are. The first one is, the score is 103-90, which means the total score was 193. 193. The Warriors hit 19 threes. Now, that is, with all of the other statistics that have been presented, that's highly improbable. But if that's not enough, then let's look at something even more intricate than that. Well, what happened? The Warriors won the 4th game against Boston by a total of 13 points. Okay? 4-13. What did they shoot from the 3-point and from the field goal? So they shot all around. They shot 41.3%. Exactly the amount of games and the series that they had against Boston. He got 4-1-3 shooting from the field, and they beat him in 4 games, and they beat him by 13 in the last one. So when you see all of these things adding up, it's very important to realize that the NBA stands to make so much more by paying guys like Curry and Chris Paul and all your favorites to be actors. You know, that's really what it is. That if these guys wanted to, the same players would win every year. So this year the narrative was Curry, so we can send him out. He had a very nice career. And like I said, it's not about talent. It's not about anything. Whoever is told to win is going to win. And that's why things like the Kings versus the Lakers happened, and the Bucks versus the Sixers. This was just a much more obvious example because they rub the numbers in people's faces. So I hope that this was an enjoyable video. I don't do editing, so I literally do everything on the fly, just because I would rather get it out there to people than spend hours trying to edit it when that's not really my expertise. One other thing that was interesting is the capacity was 19,156. So simple gematria, 19,000. So you add the 1 and the 9, you get 10. And then it was 156. So 15. 10 and 15 is 25, and then the 6 is 31, which again is an inverse of 13 and a number we've seen repetitively. So again, some of these you might think, that's a reach, or that's a coincidence. But when you have 3 or 4 sequence of numbers coming back repetitively, and from the beginning of the season, things like Kerr getting his 400th win against the team that he just happens to beat in 4 games, I don't think that they are coincidences. So I would love to hear your opinions on what you think about these numbers and just the narrative that was set up for the Warriors this year. I'm going to be doing way more videos on prior finals and predictions, because I should have done this because I predicted it a year ago. Just I didn't have a YouTube channel. I was just posting it on other people's. So please let me know what you think. If any of the numbers are confusing, I know it's hard because I don't have them on a screen for you, and I'm sorry about that, but I can elaborate in the comments. And just let me know if you want me to go into anything in detail, specifically about a player, and I'll do that in my next video. But I wanted to get this out there because it was so obvious, and since it's so fresh, maybe now if you guys see the narratives on TV, you'll start to see, oh my gosh, these numbers are coming up again and again and again for a reason. So yeah, 30, just got his 4th ring. He'll be turning 34, and that's going to be the end of this, and I hope you guys enjoy it so I can keep doing it. Thank you.